The Miracle of the Cards is a really beautiful film. It's quite a difficult watch at times, but it's absolutely worth it. And it's based on a true story that I don't think I'd heard of before, so I can't compare it. I can't say it's an accurate representation. I'll talk a little bit about this, but if anybody has any information about this, please feel free to share. This was released in 2001. It's directed by Mark Griffiths. It's written by Lee Wilson. And we have a cast including Kirk Cameron, Catherine Oxenberg, and Thomas Brodie-Sangster. And this is about a little boy called Craig, played by Thomas Brodie-Sangster, who is diagnosed with a brain tumour, and it seems like it's terminal. And his mother wants to find a way to keep the hope alive. So she starts to gather some get well soon cards and best wishes cards, and eventually, not that long into the film, but at some point she decides that maybe they could break the Guinness World Record. And all of a sudden, people are sending these cards to try and break the Guinness World Record. And I will, at the end of this discussion, tell you how many were received. This is based on the Wikipedia article that I read after watching this, and it's incredible. I'd say put a number in your head, and there's a good chance you're not even close. I was surprised, but I'll talk about that at the end of the film. I will talk about also, at the end of the discussion rather, I will also talk about ultimately what happened to Craig. I don't want to give that away, but obviously based on a true story, I just want to talk about that for a second at the end. But the film itself is a really moving story. It's so sweet and really emotional. It also feels like a little time capsule because this was released in 2001, but the story took place at the end of the 80s and it's filmed in the UK. So seeing things like different Royal Mail vans and other things that are just very specific to the 80s in the UK, things that would have been around, I was born in 1992, so things that would have been around roughly when I was a very young child. It's a kind of nostalgia, and I rather like that. And if you are from the UK, or if you've spent any amount of time here, I think you'll find that part of it to be quite brilliant. The performances are really good. Thomas Brodie-Sangster, no surprise, gave an absolutely incredible performance. And there are obstacles that the characters have to overcome, not just with the diagnosis, of course, but, well, I don't want to go into too much detail, but some people think that Craig's mother maybe loses sight of what's really important. I don't know if that's true to the true story, but certainly in the film. And that's quite an interesting part of the film that it touches on. And I feel like it addresses a lot of different things, a lot of different emotions. And it's also so frustrating at the beginning because, and again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but we have quite a struggle to get to the diagnosis. It all happens over the course of a couple of minutes, but we get to see this time lapse moving really quickly forward. And it just seemed like nobody was taking Craig's symptoms seriously until it was critical. And again, I don't know if that's based on the true story, but let's be honest, we know that this does happen. And I think it was a pharmacist in the film who was telling Craig's mother, take him to the hospital. And she did. And they just weren't taking him seriously, taking his symptoms seriously. And it's so frustrating. The film doesn't make a big deal of that. The characters aren't going around saying, how dare you not take my son's symptoms seriously? How dare you take forever to get a diagnosis? But it was very apparent in those couple of minutes as we progress quickly forward over time that was definitely the case here, and that's so frustrating to watch. So a lot of emotions will happen with watching this film. There are, of course, very emotional, hard emotional moments that are very, very difficult to watch, and there are moments of hope and uplifting moments, and they're beautifully done, and it's an incredible story and really beautiful for all of the right reasons, and I definitely recommend it. Great film, great narrative. I don't know how accurate it is completely to the true story, but certainly from the film's perspective, it's very well written, very well executed. The pacing is really good. The emotional roller coaster is so strong, and the performances are great as well. So The Miracle of the Cards is, all things considered, definitely a strong film, and I'm very happy to recommend it. I will now talk a little bit about, just very briefly in case anybody wants to know, what happened with Craig and also what happened with the cards and the world record. So these are, I guess, spoilers for what happens with the true story, so that's just worth bearing in mind. So the good news, the very, very good news, is that Craig Shergold survived. And that's just absolutely incredible. The treatment was successful, and I honestly feel like I didn't know what was happening going into the film. I definitely didn't think that that's what the outcome was going to be, but that's incredible. What's heartbreaking, though, according to Wikipedia, is that he actually died in 2020 from COVID-related pneumonia, and that's heartbreaking to survive a brain tumor as a young child and then for COVID-related pneumonia. It's awful, and I know that's affected a lot of people that with COVID in that way. So I was sad to read that. That was devastating, but I am glad that obviously at the age of 9 he survived this brain tumor, which is just absolutely incredible. And then we have the greeting cards. It's absolutely phenomenal. They received, and this is according to Wikipedia, they received 350 million greetings cards. That's absolutely insane. That is just absolutely fantastic. That is mind-blowing. If I had to guess how many they'd received, I don't think I would have even guessed 1 million. But 350 million, it's just incredible. And yeah, I absolutely would have sent one had I been born in 1989. But I just think that's amazing. Chances are, we know, like all of us, probably knows somebody who sent one, or at least knows somebody who knows somebody, because that's a lot of people. That's an awful lot of people. So that's just absolutely fantastic. They came from all over the world. Apparently, again, according to Wikipedia, they received cards from Madonna and Schwarzenegger, which is just absolutely fantastic. So, needless to say, that's incredible. And the film itself is really moving and really, really emotional. And if you want to watch it and find out what it's like for yourself, I really thoroughly recommend it, because it's quite an experience. And the true story on which it's based, again, I can't comment on how accurate it is completely, but the true story is incredible. And I can't get over that number. 350 million. That's incredible. That's absolutely amazing. And The Miracle of the Cards is also a pretty fantastic film.